In the studio with me now to talk about various things that are happening at the city is our mayor, Matthew Wren. Matt, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, as always.
I am so happy and so glad to hear that Brockville was successful in the arbitration with the tall ships. That is now a done deal. We don't have to worry about that anymore. It's off the list.
Yes, it is over and done,
Yes.
and it goes back 3 mayors before me, so it was a long journey, but the last stage of the legal process has concluded, and now we move on.
Yes. Paratransit, how are we doing?
Yeah, it's gone very well. I was keeping a very close tabs on it the first couple of weeks. I think the first 7 days of operation, the city provided 200 rides, and we've had good feedback. The vehicles seem to be exactly what was needed. They're very comfortable and well appointed. The booking system seems to be working very well. We have a dedicated position there of a dispatcher, which was something that wasn't available previously.
Yes.
And now you can also book your ride home when you book your initial ride, which wasn't able to happen in the past.
That's good. I think that's a good idea. At least,
So far,
when you're
so good.
booking, you know that you're going to be able to get home after.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But now that it's part of the city's broader transit system and within our control, certainly, any feedback we welcome, and we want to make sure that it's a great service, and if we can make it even greater, that's what we'll aim to do.
Why not? Good. I'm glad to hear that. The hot issue right now happens to be homelessness.
Of course.
So please tell our viewers what is happening with Brockville, the United Counties. I've heard about this in Dwell, and anything else that pertains to homelessness.
Sure. Well, as a separated municipality, we partner with United Counties because they're the designated service provider for housing and for social services and other services that are required. But in this area of homelessness, those are the two key ones. That means all the provincial funding to support those programs flow from the province to the county.
Okay.
Brockville's place in that is we have a seat at the Joint Services Committee, and as mayor, I represent Brockville City Council on that body. There's 13 mayors that are part of that body, all the mayors of Leeds, Grenville, Brockville, Prescott, Gananoque.
Right.
So the county has been deploying a tremendous amount of resources to deal with homelessness over the last several years. They've housed a number of people. The problem that we have identified is that without supports, when someone is provided a place to live, without supports to help them manage the issues that they're dealing with that got them in that situation in the first place, within 3 to 6 months, about half the people that the counties has helped to find a home have become homeless again. And we're on this treadmill.
Okay.
So we've been talking, or the counties have been talking with an organization by the name of Indwell for several months. And the city has a property that we gave Indwell a tour of back last summer. Indwell is not a huge organization, but they seem to be real specialists in the area of supportive housing. They have their roots in Hamilton, Ontario, and they've expanded a little bit in southwestern Ontario, but they don't have endless resources either.
No.
There's a possibility that they might consider expanding to other jurisdictions, and our MPP had formed a fairly close relationship with them when he was housing minister and municipal affairs and housing minister, and he's been encouraging them to consider coming to Brockville, but they can't come without funding from the Ontario Ministry of Health.
Yes.
Because the supportive programs that they would provide in a housing situation, those funds have to come from the province, and in that case, it comes from the Ministry of Health. So fingers crossed that might work out. The interesting thing I've learned apparently is that Indwell is also able to consult, that if they can't come themselves, they might be able to consult with the United Counties on replicating some of the things that they're doing out here so that all our eggs aren't in one basket.
That's good.
But how the city fits into this is we had this building, it's the old administration building at the Water Pollution Control Plant. Now, a lot of people thought, through the discussions of the past few weeks that it was sitting there empty. That's not the case.
Yeah.
Fulford Academy put about $600,000 of their own money and upgrades into that building a while back, and they've been on a lease, about a 4-year lease, using it as a dormitory. So for that reason, be easily converted. But, the city had to respect the fact that we've got a local tax-paying business that that we have an agreement with that's been paying rent and has upgraded that building. And we're not going to just evict them, of course.
No.
We've agreed to a term of lease. They would have been interested in staying longer, but council realizes and our tenant realizes that there are significant needs in the community that need to be addressed. Now, we always wanted this to be the end solution, and council's now approved a path forward, which was the path we always wanted. And it would have been best that a lot of those discussions had unfolded before this was all out for the public to hear about, because there's some sensitivities involved.
Of course.
But be that as it may, council found out November 29th that there was a possibility of this moving forward. We met on December 13th. Council said, Mayor Wren, we need some more facts and some more information about Indwell. Indwell was coming to the United Counties to present on January the 8th, which happened. And at our very next meeting, we went back to council. So, we can't move any more quickly than our meeting schedule. And within less than 60 days, council came to the decision. And the decision is, not to put all our eggs in one basket, thinking that Indwell might get funding and might come to Leeds and Grenville and Brockville. We want to stay in our own lane. We're not the housing provider. So council has offered the use of this building to the United Counties. The counties is working with Indwell, and hopefully they'll be the person to come, or the entity to come and provide these services. And if they can't, our offer to the county is open-ended enough that they can find perhaps a different provider. And they may be able to do other things on the site as well, all aimed at reducing the amount of homelessness that we're experiencing. And that's what we all want.
So let's dovetail right into the budget then. You were just talking a few minutes about it. I think people have to understand it's a process.
Yes. Yeah.
And what you are sharing with our community is what the council is trying to do. And really, they shouldn't be shocked at anything, a service going up, because pricing is unreal for a lot of things. So we are going to see a raise in our taxes.
Well, there's no doubt that there's going to be an increase. It's been a long budget process this year. We had hoped to unroll the budget prior to the end of the year. In fact, our initial goal was to have it approved before the end of the year, but there's so much volatility right now in trying to gather the data that we need and the numbers, especially with our capital budget. And so unfortunately, it's become this long, protracted process. I've already been talking to our city manager. I really like what I saw happen in Kingston, that they unrolled their budget over about 3 council meetings in a week, 3 nights in a row or something to that effect. Now, it's a little different there because Mayor Patterson was provided with strong mayor powers. And part of that, I'm not looking for that, but part of that is that the mayor has basically the responsibility to draft and bring forward the budget. It doesn't work that way for any other municipalities. So as we've always done, staff is delivering the budget in various segments. We've received the community partner presentations. We've received the capital budget, water and wastewater, user fees. And lastly, we received the operating of the city departments. And Doreen, I've talked to a number of people the last few days, and I remind them that myself and all of council, we're all taxpayers too. Right. I mean, none of us, want to incur increases in our family budgets any more than anybody else does. But the fact is that we're living in a period of, very high inflation, very unpredictable costs, especially with contracted services. The city's insurance over the last 5 years has tripled from $300,000 a year to $1 million a year. It's not even CPI. It's like the increases are way beyond. So ultimately, that all trickles down to you and I and all of us have a share in keeping things going. And people are very reticent to see services cut, but we may have to start looking at some of those things.
Unfortunately, yes.
So, and if you're adding the numbers up as they've been coming out, it is looking like a big number, but we're not done yet. And so the work we have to do now is we have to look at, okay, where can we scale back? What can we defer? to a later time.
Right.
That gets tricky though, because you're pushing problems down the road.
Well, you are. You're going to have to address them at some point in time.
And there'll be more problems coming.
Yeah.
The pile will just get deeper.
Yes.
And also, what are the funding sources? We're fortunate that we have very solid reserves right now. Those got built up fairly nicely over the past 4 or 5 years. We may have to draw on some of those as well. So it's not over yet, but we really appreciate the community's feedback, and we take it to heart. But it's not as easy sometimes on this side of the desk to say, well, you got too many staff, or you got too many this or that, or you got too many trucks. It's not that simple. It's not black and white. It's gray. Yeah. And a big chunk of our city operations is payroll. And city jobs, public sector jobs used to be on the high end of the pay scale. They're not so much anymore. It's a very competitive labor market out there. But most of the increases each year, I think there's about a 40-60 split between unionized staff and non-unionized staff. So the unionized staff, those annual increases are part of our collective agreements that are in place. That's already cast in stone. It is. And then we try to treat our non-unionized staff fairly in comparison to the unionized increases. And we have a policy that the non-union staff's annual increase, cost of living increase, ranges between 1% and 3% at council's discretion based on the environment we're in. Obviously, in this high inflation environment, that affects all our people too, and we want to retain our workers and attract new ones when we have vacancies. And so, obviously, the initial proposal is at the high end of that scale at 3%. Is that doable? Council will have to decide, and so that's where we're at. One last question, because we're running out of time. The Rotary Rink. Yes. What's happening at the Rotary Rink? Right. Well, the annual difficulties that emerge between people who want to skate and people who want to play hockey. So this happens every year. I talked to the Winter Classic Committee, who are responsible for a great deal of the infrastructure there. Yes. They said, look, we built an outdoor hockey rink. That's what it was intended to be. But we've tried to create a schedule so that there could be some public skating time. And the problem is that some of the folks, especially the younger folks that use the rink, aren't respecting the schedule. So people said, well, like city, you need to put somebody there to supervise this. Right. Well, we ran those numbers, and the ice is only in from December till maybe April. To staff that facility for 4 months, it would cost about $70,000. And we just had a discussion about the budget. Yes. So that just doesn't make sense. No. But what we have done is we want to look at the schedule, and maybe there should be different time slots for public skating. Yes. So there is a survey out there. You can get a hold of the link from the city website. Share your feedback. We'll try and solve it. Thank you very much for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate it. Always appreciate you.